changing the frequency?
No.
Difference in the frequencies between
intensity.
each other?
Volume.
Okay.
That's it, volume. That's it, just volume. How loud do I want it? Okay.
So if we want to adjust the channels down on the bottom channel.
Press the channel and adjust it here, press channel 2 and adjust it.
Can you do different channels so if you're in IFC you can automatically adjust both of them?
Not when you're in the middle of the program.
So you can actually separately adjust it
Correct.
even in quad?
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. You just press channel 1, change it, press channel 2, change it.
And then how do you get them both?
By default, when you're setting the intensity, both go up together. But this particular box has the ability to allow you to change it slightly between the channels if that's really what you want.
Because I thought if your balance was set, because I turned it up on the kit, on the outfits that I get from actually using it, and I just hit like one vocal kind of light up and I try
By default,
and then default.
correct, by default,
It will automatically
I was actually going to ask
again,
Christina
she
if she
brings up a
could
good
come up with
point.
some exercises we could do.
Okay, by default, the nature of it is when you're turning up the intensity, you are simultaneously turning the intensity the same on both channels. However, in the middle of a program, for this particular one, actually most of them now, you could go back and change the intensity to independent channels. But most people don't really get into that. Generally speaking, if they change anything after they set it, is they hit the balance button. And they purely for subjective reasons. Remember, the only reason you hit balance was because the patient's giving you feedback that says, I'm not
Just like a buzz.
So what's the purpose of changing the channel intensity? I mean, what is the reason for doing it?
could be protocol driven. Maybe you attended a workshop, read something, heard something. Maybe it's just one more ability for you to subjectively give the patient what they want. Maybe the balance feature didn't quite address the issue. So you think, okay, let's go ahead and change the individual intensity of channel 1 and see if that helps. Okay?
It's not here. It's the white noise. And the white noise allows stereo. So it's successful for people who want to reduce your pain.
Not on quad polar.
Not eliminate.
Quad polar, by default, all the machines out there, as soon as I choose quad polar and start raising the intensity, by design, both channels go up together. Same thing.
Breaking the pain cycle.
Oh, so is there any reason during the treatment to change the intensity? I mean, is the muscle, is the body
Probably
like
the only
adapting?
reason would be acclimation. So the body has acclimated. They go, well, I can feel it, but I can use it up higher now.
So that's the reason to come back after a couple minutes and check them and see how it is.
5 to 7 minutes after we started, and 90% of the time I'll ask patients, how are you doing? And they're like, well, I really can't feel it anymore.
Okay.
Especially on the first time, because the first time you turn that up and they feel that tingle, no, I can feel it. I'm good. Because they have because all they know is that they have this weird sensation that they've never had before.
Yes.
That just feels odd.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Are
But
you
you still need to ask yourself, why am I raising it? Okay, so what if they acclimate? Okay, I can still barely feel it, but what's my motivation? What's the purpose of raising it again? If it's purely subjective and that's what they want to feel is a little bit more, and you don't feel like there's any reason not to, go ahead.
You're just making them comfortable then.
Yeah, if they want to feel more, and they feel like, hey, I feel less pain when it's a little bit higher, fine. Remember, that's why you're doing it. Okay? So
why is channel 2 linked and channel 1 not? I don't.
It just does that.
And again, I don't want to get too fixated on this particular box because you might get out in the field and there's just lots of different machines. So let's try to stick with the principles right now. Okay, so we all understand the basic principle with quad polar. It's a pain management objective. It's very comfortable. I can treat deep, and we're treating in this area right here. Our target area is not. Yes, there's stem coming out directly underneath the electrode, but it's got to run to that one to complete the circuit. So our focus is not here. Our focus is there. Okay? That's all we're saying. Is the focal point is where they need to.
Can I go through these questions?
Well, we still need to go over pre-modulated Russian, high volt, and
So let's just stop this one.
Because there's a lot of questions about Damien, how he's feeling.
Okay.
On that particular waveform?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but I think that's based on.
I got a pen right there.
I think that's based on the scenario that she wants, though, on the lumbar spine. She wants us to actually have it put on the lumbar spine and ask people. What she wants Joe to do is explain pre-modulated Russian high voltage microcurrent, and then we can get
Okay,
together.
in fact, you know what, that's a good point. So let me push through it. Won't take
Then we'll
long
have
at all.
time. We gotta do it now. I
Yeah.
usually script them.
Let me push through these. So again, conceptually speaking, just to get your mind around it too. So IFC, which is the very next one here, it says pre-mod IFC. Pre-mod is a pretty common term. It means pre-modulated, and it's basically with modern microprocessing, they claim you can imitate the comfortable low-frequency therapeutic value. You can imitate the comfortable low-frequency therapeutic value, and but just using 2 electrodes and not the quad polar field that you're setting up. Okay. In that case, obviously, your target doesn't have to be, but probably will be directly underneath one of the electrodes. And again, the reason that people turn to pre-mod IFC and not quad polar, generally speaking, it's because they simply can't get 4 electrodes to surround the ear. That's not the only reason, but I'm telling you that is far and away the most popular reason and motivation for doing it. There are some protocols out there that say that pre-mod, just 2 electrodes, is more apropos. Some protocol-driven notion, but that's not real. Okay, so again, the idea is pretty much the same. You just press it, pre-mod, set the intensity.
I took care of that for you. Just turn on.
Tell me when you feel something.
We'll get to that.
Slight tingle there.
So is that just coming out of channel 1?
Channel 1.
Yep.
Right.
Correct. Just channel 1. Yeah, I just didn't kill the others off. I just left
I
it.
worked out yesterday. and
Okay,
my back.
so that's it. Hit the waveform, set the intensity, and go.
But you still do like a diagonal pattern with the sight in the middle?
No.
Well, so what do you do?
Ignore
How
that.
do you place it?
Well, again, that's going to be partly driven by, again, you can put the electrode directly on the targeted site, or if you do, it's similar to a field, I suppose. You could still have it just get on each side of it, usually like along the meridian pathway, along the longitudinal axis of the muscle, one at the top, one at the bottom, point
So
muscle
closer together,
insertion.
probably?
Maybe, yeah, and they got to run between each other,
Right.
and so it's got to run through that area.
Okay.
But again, I think it's pretty common still. A lot of people do pre-mod, they still put the electrode directly on top of the area now.
Okay.
Okay? So pretty straightforward again. To hit the waveform, hit intensity, and press start. Remember, start is just starting the clock. Just remember that. Start is starting the clock. Exactly. Go back. Oh, you want to start?
Set the timer, walk away.
I didn't get there.
Okay, Russian, again, we don't even need to keep pushing all the buttons. Russian, again, is great, very efficient at eliciting a muscle contraction. It's all about muscle re-education, strengthening from a deconditioned or weakened state. Russian, it goes back to the Olympics in the 70s where the Russian athletes were using it. And goes, hey, that's it.
Will you repeat Russian one more time?
So Russian is very efficient at eliciting a muscle contraction. So if that's your goal, you do want to strengthen, re-educate. It's a teaching tool. If that's your goal, then there's nothing like Russian. If you're not careful, they will hate you because it can quickly get a contraction going. But that's why I say it can be a teaching tool as well for somebody. This is what it's like if your body mechanics are right and you are firing those muscles appropriately. It'll feel this way, even though you feel very weak right now in your deconditioned state for whatever reason. High volt. High volt is probably, I would say, it's probably the second most popular waveform. It's a monophasic waveform. It's also known as pulse DC current. So some machines, the reason I tell you that, some machines will say mono, which is from monophasic, which its popular nomenclature is high volt.
Did you say pulse?
Pulse DC current. DC current, just like a straight line. It's very good at driving like medications, like an ionophoresis, which we'll get into. But if you pulse it, it's like it softens it, more comfortable, but it's still very good at moving edema, combating muscle spasm. In the world